Hello, my name is John Hawley, and I am principal at the Center for Math and Science in Rock Island, Illinois.
I'm Ian Scott, principal at Thomas Jefferson in Milan, Illinois, and we are your MyRock podcast hosts.
MyRock celebrates what makes RIMSD 41 thrive. Each episode shares inspiring stories and insights from behind the scenes, sharing the heart of our schools.
The podcast also supports our 2030 strategic plan by fostering connections, building relationships, and strengthening communication within our district and our community.
Thank you to all the listeners who've joined us tonight. And remember to share, like, and subscribe where you get your podcasts.
If you're feeling generous, give us 5 stars, tell a friend, give us a listen.
Welcome to the MyRock podcast. My name is John Hawley, and I am principal at the Center for Math and Science.
My name is J.D. Wilson, and I am the principal at Ridgewood Elementary School.
And today's guest has so many talents, and I've heard so many great things about all his creative masteries. I'm excited for our viewers to get to know him. Chris, introduce yourself. Tell us what your role is and where you're working, and give us a little introduction here.
Yeah, so my name's Chris Britton, and grew up in Rock Island. I'm currently in my 6th year as a creative writing and digital media instructor at Thurgood Marshall. So I've been doing that. That's been my one and only assignment in the district, and so
just in case we have some viewers who don't know anything about Rock Island, Thurgood Marshall. Is that a high school? Is that an elementary school? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah,
position.
we consider Thurgood Marshall just an extended brother or sister of Rock Island High School.
Uh-huh.
So we have junior high and high school students that are referred to us for a lot of different reasons, and they'll need that alternative style of teaching for them.
Yeah, I'm excited for this episode here. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, man. But so before we get into that portion of it, take us back, man. Take us back to how you were involved with the district prior to your role in the district.
Right. So I'm actually a graduate of Rock Island High School. So back in the 90s, I know that dates myself, but it's a pretty big part of my story of why I'm here today as well. So growing up in the 90s in Rock Island, there was a lot of gang stuff going on, and I'll never front and act like I was a big gang banger or anything like that, but I had a lot of opportunities to be around some of that and see the dark side and gravitate towards that, so I can't front and act like it didn't affect or impact my education. Luckily, through all of the different things that I went through and experienced, I did graduate from Rock Island High School, but the impact that seeing a lot of friends that maybe dropped out or close ones, and I had a good friend that passed away as I was a senior at Rock Island High School, so there was a lot of stuff that impacted me. Fortunately, I was involved in a youth program, in a faith-based youth program, where I became one of the student leaders, doing summer programs and whatnot, and seeing young kids that would come into the program where I was kind of like their little leader or a camp counselor. It had a big impression on me where I didn't want to see them end up like so many of the peers that I had. So long story short, I think that slowly but surely the seeds of, I knew that I would spend some of my life work to serving children and youth at some capacity. At that point, I didn't know what that would look like. But I ended up going into youth ministry. It was my undergrad. So I did youth ministry for a number of years. The youth center that I was a part of as I was a teenager, I went back and I took over that program, started running that program after my undergrad, developed a creative arts program about 5 years after serving there, because I saw the big impact that creative arts had with students in our community, but also I saw that there was a missing variable, that education piece. So started to go into schools, and I met JD and Liz Kantner, teacher, who was a teacher at Thurgood Marshall at that time, and I started to do a creative arts program once a week there. So this was, probably around 2015, 2016 or whatnot. and just developed a really good relationship with Thurgood Marshall in that way, coming in doing like a hip hop education program. So spent a couple of years doing that, and that just opened up my eyes to the power of like bringing that type of energy into the education atmosphere. So yeah, that's how I got my feet wet. And again, I met JD, and my kids went to elementary school when he was a principal over there. So I already had knew him from that, but he had helped me to give me some pointers on the best way to try to facilitate that in the classroom at an alternative school.
Yeah, absolutely. And you came into the elementary school and kind of expanded that a little bit from when you were at Thurgood.
Right. Yep.
And so the kids love that. You were working with our 5th and 6th graders, I want to say.
Yep.
Yeah, and so one of the things that I noticed right off the bat was you were a natural.
Man.
And so you came in, you hit the ground running, and you didn't look back after that, man. So I know we at Thurgood, we kind of start writing a little bit of curriculum and got a class going, and that class is still up and running today.
The class is still up and running today.
Yeah.
So how did you, or where along the way did you get a teaching certificate?
Yeah.
So,
that's a great question.
And how did you finally make that decision that like, I'm going to get my teaching degree?
Right. So again, I had that undergrad in youth ministry. I was running this youth center for a number of years, for over a decade at this point. And COVID happened as well, right? COVID happened in 2019, 2020. Well, at the time, I had finished my master's degree, which was a master's in leadership and ministry. During that coursework, the degree sounds like I was just, master in ministry leadership, but there were classes focused on curriculum development and all that. And my capstone project was how to lead an organization with a creative arts leadership program. That was my capstone project.
That's a great combination.
How could you do that in a youth center, or even start that in a school or anything like that? So during that time, I was doing this program in Thurgood. I was working on my master's program, and life was life. And my girls, I have 3 girls, and they were getting older, and they were kind of hitting that age where, when you're working in a youth center, your main hours are second shift. It's after school hours, and you're working into the evening a lot. So boom, COVID hits and things slow down. I'm at home, and things are slowing down. I'm at home for dinner, and I'm looking at the table, and I'll never forget. I kind of think in metaphors and things of that nature as a poet a lot. And I remember there was an empty seat at the table, and I got up and I was home for dinner, and I'm like, man, I'm never in that seat. And it wasn't a bad thing. My wife and kids knew what kind of work I'm doing in the community, so it wasn't like they were suffering anything. But for me, it was just a different, I'm like, man, I'm never here. And it's just that age where my kids were asking, like, where are you at night? And all those kind of things. And the principal at Thurgood at the time had mentioned, and JD also had mentioned, like, oh, you're a natural, and if you ever want to be a teacher or anything like that, out of respect for what you're doing in the community, we would never pull you from that. But man, it would kind of be cool if you did. So they didn't bring it up a lot. And one day I just kind of asked about, like, man, how would I, with a non-traditional background, approach that? And so I kind of started digging, and I learned about the CTE, and they had under the umbrella of CTE, there was a digital media CTE. So that meant like people that had experience with all these digital media programs, like producing music or producing videos. And I started thinking to myself, that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years. Like with the organization, I was helping kids make beats and do all these graphic arts, and we were doing flyers for our poetry events and tickets and merch and all these different things. So accumulating the hours to prove that I had, to qualify for that was kind of easy. So I said, let me put this stuff together and see what happens. And lo and behold, after I brought it to the administrator at the time, he was like, let's see what happens. And it was kind of a quick process.
Really?
And I was like, oh, wow, this could be a real opportunity that could be a reality. And so that kind of was that got the ball rolling. And like I said, things slowed down, and I was like, I think that it's time. It's this time in my life to make that decision. So I was able to get a CTE license in digital media, and I started at Thurgood, and right when COVID hit, so I got in there, and everything was shut down, and it was like you're going online to teach stuff, and I was like, oh wow.
But with your technology and all that you talked about, actually, it's probably an easier jump for you than some of our teachers who hadn't been using technology.
Because I was asking the teachers in the building at the time, like, oh, you guys got to help me. And they're like, you got to help us to understand how to get on there and all that stuff. So, shout out to all the teachers at Thurgood Marshall, because it was just a reciprocal type of relationship where we were able to learn from each other and grow.
So the course there that you teach, you got some autonomy there to be creative.
Yep.
Talk to us about the type of class that you teach.
Okay.
And where it started and where it's at now.
All right. So again, digital media means a lot of different things, and what I learned in the environment that I teach at is we kind of say when we get our students at Thurgood Marshall. We learn about how they learn. What's the best way to, what we say educationally, make a tailor-made suit for them, so we can help them in the best way to either accumulate credits to get back, get credits that, well, to accumulate credits that not were lost, but they're having a hard time attaining, or for whatever reasons. And so where I come in, if we find some students that we understand that just need that hands-on experience, and they have interest in poetry or beat making, podcasting like this, and I have a curriculum design where we can get them in and they'll learn, not just because we all know that there's more to it. There's people behind the scenes here. There's pre-production, there's writing a script, there's post-production, and there's plenty of avenues for students to learn in that way as tactile learners. So that's one of the big opportunities that I get there. The first year that I was there, we came out with a book called Thurgood Inspiration, and that was the students' idea, because one of them said, hey, I don't know if anybody will think that there will ever be anything inspirational that comes from Thurgood.
Yeah.
They said, we don't know if there's anything ever that they would consider to be inspirational that comes from Thurgood. So through a whole quarter, students did the same type of academic rigor that they would do writing poetry, but at the end we said, what do you guys want? Let's do an open box, or whatever they call it these days. It's still like let's have a red carpet event. Let's get some food donated, and let's unbox. There it is. Let's unbox these books, and we'll invite some people from the district and all that. Man, we had Famous Dave's food that was donated from a church that found out about what the kids had done. We had some people from the district. Thank you, JD. I think you came through there, and students got to see their work printed off in a book. And that kind of set off, a whole string of different ideas and avenues of creative things that we could do at Thurgood Marshall to help the students.
Yeah. It started off, I remember back in 19, it started off with just a classroom.
Yep.
And it's now an entire production studio. So
right.
You guys, I remember that back closet.
Right.
You got, that's now a booth or something like that.
Yeah, so one of the back closets that usually might be used for stores and things like that, we have a spot where we can get the microphones out for students, or we actually have some backdrops where we can take some pictures for students, and they can do some studio, some real pictures, and some photography. So there's a lot of opportunities to do alternative education, and I'm super thankful for that.
I want to take you back to this book and making that book and the kids' contributions. Yep. Like I can kind of picture that would be an awesome event. Those kids would love that. But I don't know if you can really describe what that time frame was like from a kid's viewpoint. What did it mean to the kids to contribute and publish something and have community members come?
Right. I mean, it was a big deal when you think about a school like Thurgood, where obviously there are things that the students are facing that are tough outside of the walls of our school. So there's a lot of odds that are against them already. You know, you hear all of the different stereotypes against some of the students. And even so, during some of the hard processes where they're saying some hard things about themselves, they're asked to use a metaphor to describe that. So they're learning the academics behind it, but they're talking about some of the pain and some of the things that they see in their community. And then I'm asking them to edit, right? The steps of being of creative writing. So when it got close to submitting, I remember when it got close to saying like, hey, we have to turn our manuscript in. We got these deadlines coming up. And I think for those students realize that they spent weeks on something, and they're gonna see. Now it was my time to make the promise that I had made them. Once we get to this point, I have to do my job and make sure that it comes to completion. And there was something at that point where they said, like, man, we've put in the work. Now let's see, are we really gonna get this book done? Mm-hmm. We sent the manuscript back to my alma mater. There was a graphic arts student that took it on as their senior project at Judson University. I sent the students stuff, and as promised, in the next couple of weeks, they sent us a box of books. And the students being able to see the box, I actually sat the box in my room for like a week because I'm like, we're not. I haven't looked at it. We're all going to look at this together. So you talk about going through a whole quarter with students for them to see from start to finish their hard work, not just in academics, but the camaraderie of the classroom, the partnership with the teachers, the partnership with the people from the district. I said, you guys partnered with a university student for their senior project. So the unboxing at that point, and you talk about attendance. I mean, students had to show up. Students that sometimes maybe wouldn't show up as much, they were showing up and they were putting work in. So just phenomenal things, you know.
Good for you. That's amazing.
Man, I love how you took something that you're passionate about, which is kind of going into my next question, and pouring into the kids and helping them find something maybe they didn't see in themselves. So, you know, anybody can do or think of like for multimedia. Right, we got a ton of multimedia and extremely talented individuals, but not, you know, everybody can go into it. Not everybody's really good at it. You became really good at it, but you also added that extra element of the poetry. Mm-hmm. So talk to us about how the poetry became a part of that multimedia.
Okay. So, man, with poetry, what I realized is that, I mean, got a couple choices doing creative writing. They can write essays, you know. Right. And then there's a lot of different ways you can do things, but poetry, I feel like, provides students a format. It doesn't take up as much space on a page. Sometimes what I found is less threatening. Sometimes looking at a haiku and trying to dissect that, besides like, you know, a full page of Romeo and Juliet or something. No disrespect to that at all. But what I found is that students can engage with poetry in short bursts of themselves. If that makes sense. Yeah. We ask them to write, and they really try to process some of the deeper meanings of writing and some of their thoughts in these short bursts. And that's what I kind of bring to the classroom, is helping them to articulate their thoughts and what's going on in poetry format. So one of the processes that I walk them through is kind of this process I call the beginning, obstacles, hope, and future. And we'll walk through kind of these 4 steps. They might not know the 4 steps, but I'll design the curriculum in that way where they're talking about their beginnings somehow. There's poems called Where I'm From poems. They get to kind of write that, think about where they're from, and think about their past and all that. Obstacle poems are what are they facing, and they're using the personification, the poetic technique of personification to try to understand themselves in a deeper way. What are their obstacles? They speak directly to their obstacles, personify it. What's their hope? And lastly, what's their future? So those 4 phases I kind of put into a quarter, where, I don't just spell it out just like that, but with what kind of books that we're reading or what kind of writing exercises that I'm giving them through the academic rigor, they're kind of touching on all 4 of those at some point. And what they find at the end of it, they not only learn about themselves, they learn about one another. I participate in every writing exercise as well as a teacher. So in the classroom, if I ask them to do a certain type of poem or whatnot, they'll hear from me, or I'll write something as well. And we try to make it a kind of like, this is fam for the quarter, that we're going to go through this together.
Yeah, and it sounds like poetry had an impact on you. How did poetry have an impact on you? You see how it's having an impact on the kids, but how did you kind of knew that it would have an impact on the kids, right?
Yeah.
So talk to us about how poetry had that impact on you.
All right, so I would say that I never thought I would do poetry. I mean, I would say hip hop is in my blood. I grew up in the 90s. I feel like it's one of the greatest eras of hip hop. So I was fortunate to experience, the boom of hip hop, and I know how big of an influence that it was for me. The hip hop, as far as hip hop culture, right? So I know there's a lot of people that think hip hop and the negativity, but the backside of that is hip hop culture, is the disciplines of writing, of lyricism, and all those things. So I grew up to appreciate lyrics and lyricism. So I think the poetry aspect stemmed out of my love for hip hop and the linguistics and putting words together, and the ability of storytelling through hip hop and all the different disciplines that go into someone articulating their story. Once I realized that it was bigger than just rap, I was like, man, this is poetry. This is slam poetry. This is spoken word poetry. This is personal poetry. This can be poetry in the classroom, simply put. So when it came to like impact with students and myself utilizing my skills, I think what it baked down to was poetry in a nutshell, was be able to utilize in a lot of different varieties of formats to help students.
I'm curious about, so we're both elementary principals, and there are teachers all across the district that when you threw out the word differentiation, is tough. I want to have control of my classroom. It's easier to manage, but there's obviously, you're differentiating for every kid. And you're in a whole different setting than what most of our teachers are facing day to day. What kind of tips, advice, what's your thought process about taking this class, and I'm going to individualize it because I know that's what's going to draw these kids in, or what?
Right.
What's your insight?
Well, first of all, shout out to all the teachers in the district doing this work. For me, I know that we have a smaller student-teacher ratio, which affords us some ability to learn students a little bit. I mean, we might get a student, a couple weeks ago, I just had a student that came into the classroom for the first time. So trying to learn like the students and how they learn best. So that's the biggest thing for me. I think that I have an advantage because with poetry, you learn personal narratives from students. So when you do poetry, they learn about me, I learn about them on a daily basis. So I feel like building those relationships is kind of built into the curriculum already for me. So I get to learn them as they learn, all the norms in the classroom and everything from me. I can put those in poetic forms or freestyle, and I can kind of have fun with that. But either way, in the classroom, I feel like I get one of the best opportunities to learn who my students are and what they need. And that way I can understand if there's a student that might need a fill-in-the-blank template, or if there's a student that is a big dreamer and they just need a blank page and a pen, or if a student needs to read a couple poems, or if they need to hear a couple poems and I can spit the poems, or they can analyze lyrics from a rap song and we can underline the alliteration. So all those different pockets for me come from, I think, the first couple of weeks where I get to interact with students.
Yeah, those are good points.
Yeah.
If you're going to truly differentiate, you have to know your students.
Yep.
You have to take the time to know what moves them, how they learn, what are their interests, all of those things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, what's also unique about you is, some people might take a business class, but the professor may have never owned the business. He's teaching poetry and is a poet, right? Is a rap artist. So I want to swing over to bars. Right? Now, hey, so
you might have to explain what that means.
So bars, right? Some people call them stanzas, right? So like a line in hip hop music or in a poem, it's one line of what you recite. So it could be a different count. Usually it's 4 count. Right? That's 1 bar. It's 2 bars, right? And so when we say bars, what you say in between that cadence is a bar. So Mr. Britton here is battle tested. And I mean that literally. You didn't think I was gonna ask. So man, talk to us about, because it's one thing to watch it, but it's another thing. So like people know the movie 8 Mile, right? Sweaty, knees weak, right?
Right.
You're not acting.
Yeah.
You talk to us about the battle rap scene, man.
Oh man. This is a segue where I could say y'all should really invite me back later, because I would love to share what I'm going to try to implement in curriculum with battle rap later. But it might deserve its own time.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's very cool. It's very cool.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, as a poet, as a creative, I try to challenge myself as much as possible. And what I learned in my time as a poet doing spoken word, I had a really hard time with memorization. I could write poems. I got my phone or I got it printed out. That's fine. And it was, probably 2021, 2022. I had learned about, some local battle rap leagues and things of that nature. And I said, man, I need to work on memorization. I need to learn, sharpen up my skills, sharpen up my pen, as we would say, as a rapper, your lyrical abilities. So, I remember talking to my wife and I said, I want to at least do 5. I want to at least do 5 of these battles. I feel like I need to just do this for the skill, for creative writing. I need to do this for my students. I need to put myself in kind of some training, in an intense training environment, if you want to call it that, and kind of test myself. And I'm happy to say I was able to do those 5 battles in a span of time in the last years. But what I learned from that really is, I learned so much from it, JD. I learned a lot about the discipline of writing again, and the discipline of unlike 8 Mile, a lot of the new battle rap is a cappella. So if you imagine this room is filled up with people and all they are is coming to hear your words. And not only your words, but let's say you got some great words, you can't just, it's not enough just to memorize them. You have to become those words. And for me as a teacher, what that translates to is me and one of my friends, we always say, we challenge each other. I have another friend in another district, and we say, what we've learned is that we have to become our curriculum. For me, I challenge myself in my class, how can I become my curriculum? Not just think about it, this is what I want to administer to the kids, but how can I become that during this time that these students have me in this class?
That's the next level.
So they look at me as far as
that's a great message.
I'm not just giving you this, I know it, I've used it, I've designed it specifically with you in mind to interact with it.
I do this.
And yeah.
I do this, man.
So that's kind of a big answer, but I would love to come back and share with you what I've learned through that experience, because it was about four years or so where I had those 5 battles.
Yeah.
And I challenged myself. You know, I was like, hey, I'm gonna go in these specific areas, and they're gonna be dogging me.
Mhm.
They could be saying I'm this, I'm bleep this, and I'm that. But I said I want my material. I want to use this as curriculum one day.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna make it in a way where I could go back and look at this footage, and I can use it in the classroom.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that, how powerful for kids at this age, at the high school age, who are scared to face their peers for anything. They're at this school, and for whatever reason, they weren't finding, the success that they wanted to see. And for you to go out there and be vulnerable and say, this is a goal. I want to be able to do this. I'm going to put myself out there. And that connection that you must have with kids, like, it makes me want to come visit you and see what that's like.
Yeah, man.
Oh man, it's a great experience.
Yeah.
And so, for people who may not know, can you explain just simply battle rap?
I mean, in terms of how it is today, a lot of there's battle rap leagues. So you can picture a wrestling league, and you got your top wrestlers, you got some, no name wrestlers, whatever the case may be. So there's battle leagues, and so I had learned of one. You get in there, they match you up with somebody. Usually it's through a group text or something of that nature. And they show you their footage. They show you what kind of material that they have on there. You agree to the terms. There's 3 rounds usually. You agree to minutes, and you got about sometimes 2, maybe 3 months. If it's crunch, you got 1 month or so. But usually you get about 2 or 3 months to kind of study, and you write, and you got to show up on the event day just ready. You got to show up. I told somebody that in our building, Mr. Vanderwall, he's a boxer. A lot of times we equate it to, in boxing, you go in the ring, and it's kind of mean. You're doing some mean things, and at the end, out of respect for the sport, you dap it up, you hug, and you're friends afterwards.
Mhm.
And that's truly what battle culture is and should be, is that you do all that, and you'd be surprised at battle events in between battles. It's all peaceful.
Yeah.
People are chilling. It's nice. During the battle, it's not nice. But afterwards, you shake it up, you dap up, and you kind of talk about your proverbial battle as you live on. You're like, hey, man, remember that? Who do you think you want to go after next?
Mhm.
So that's kind of how battle rap culture is. And, yeah.
Well, Chris, we have reached the end of our time, but I want to thank you, and I definitely want to get you back here and learn about all this.
Definitely.
You make me want to come over to Thurgood Marshall and see you in action. I think our kids here in Rock Island, they can benefit so much from you, and they're so fortunate to have a teacher like you who takes the time to really connect with them at a deep, intimate, personal level. So I'm super glad to meet you today. Obviously, this guy has known you for a while.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so thank you very much.
Hey, you're welcome. Thank
Thanks,
both of
man.
you.
It's
Thanks for
been
the
awesome.
invite here. And I look forward to coming back in the future.
Great.
All right.
And thank you for joining us tonight, all the viewers out there. We appreciate you spending some time with us and getting to know Chris. Don't forget to hit that like button and share and subscribe. Have a great night.
All right.